Elena Marquez trusted the wrong secret, and Daniel Whitmore never saw the moment his perfect life began to collapse. In the busy streets of Chicago, a young Filipina trauma nurse named Elena Marquez built a quiet life around helping people survive their most difficult moments. She was respected at the hospital because of her ability to stay calm during emergencies and handle situations that overwhelmed many others. Her coworkers saw her as hardworking, caring, and focused on her responsibilities. She rarely talked about her personal life, and most people around her knew very little about the woman behind the nurse's uniform. Years earlier, Elena had left the Philippines hoping to escape the struggles of her past and create a new future. Moving to Chicago was not easy, but she worked through every challenge. She studied, improved her skills, and eventually earned a position in a major trauma department. Her dedication helped her build a reputation as someone who could be trusted during moments of crisis. Everything began to change when Elena met Daniel Whitmore, a well-known Chicago prosecutor whose career was built on handling serious criminal cases. Daniel was admired for his sharp mind and his ability to present strong arguments in court. To the outside world, he appeared successful, confident, and untouchable. But beneath their very different lives, a connection began forming between them. Their relationship remained hidden from everyone around them. Elena continued her work at the hospital while Daniel continued appearing in courtrooms. They carefully separated their private world from their public lives, believing they could keep their secrets safe. Neither of them knew that this hidden relationship would eventually lead to a shocking investigation, revealing secrets that would change everything they thought they understood. Daniel Whitmore had spent years building a powerful reputation in Chicago's legal system. As a prosecutor, he was known for handling difficult cases and presenting himself as someone who always searched for the truth. His career brought him respect from colleagues and attention from the public. Many people viewed him as a symbol of justice and believed his professional success reflected the person he was outside the courtroom. However, behind his carefully controlled image, Daniel's personal life was far more complicated. He carried private struggles that few people knew about. The pressure of his career, the expectations placed on him, and the choices he made away from work created a side of his life that remained hidden from the public. Elena Marquez became one of the few people who saw beyond his professional image. Their connection developed quietly, away from the attention of coworkers, friends, and the people who followed Daniel's career. Their different backgrounds made their relationship unexpected, but their bond continued to grow stronger over time. As months passed, they became more careful about keeping their secret. Elena focused on her demanding hospital schedule, while Daniel continued managing high-profile legal cases. On the surface, nothing seemed unusual, but small signs began to appear. Some people around Elena noticed changes in her routine. She seemed more distracted and sometimes appeared worried. At the same time, Daniel's behavior started raising questions among those who worked closely with him. His decisions seemed different, and his usual confidence appeared affected by something happening in his private life. The hidden relationship that both of them tried to protect was slowly becoming connected to events that would later bring investigators closer to a shocking truth. The night Elena Marquez disappeared began like a routine shift at the trauma hospital in Chicago. She arrived on time, completed her duties with steady focus, and assisted in several critical cases. Nothing in her behavior suggested that anything unusual was about to happen. Her colleagues remembered her as calm and organized throughout the shift, moving between patients with the same professionalism she always showed. After finishing her work, Elena left the hospital late in the evening. Security records confirmed her departure, but after that moment, her movements became unclear. She did not return home, and she did not contact anyone. Hours passed, and her absence began to raise concern among people who knew her well. Elena was not someone who ignored responsibilities or disappeared without explanation. Her sudden silence created immediate worry among friends and coworkers. By the next morning, attempts to reach her through her phone failed, as the device remained inactive. Soon after, her disappearance was reported, and an investigation began. Police reviewed available footage and tracked her last known movements. This search led them to a disturbing discovery in an isolated alleyway on the outskirts of Chicago. The scene indicated that something serious had happened during the hours she went missing. As investigators worked to identify connections, they quickly learned about Elena's hidden relationship with Daniel Whitmore, a well-known prosecutor. This connection immediately shifted the direction of the case, turning it from a simple missing person report into a complex investigation involving a public figure. The discovery raised urgent questions about Elena's final hours and the events that led her to that location. Every detail became important as detectives tried to understand how her normal routine ended in tragedy. As detectives continued the investigation, they began to focus on the evidence collected from Elena Marquez's personal life. Her phone records, work schedule, and digital activity were carefully examined. What stood out most was a growing pattern of communication connected to people outside her normal hospital routine. These details suggested she had been dealing with information or concerns that she had not shared with anyone close to her. Investigators also found that Elena had been quietly keeping notes and personal records related to recent events involving Daniel Whitmore. Some of these records pointed toward her increasing awareness of situations that extended beyond their private relationship. This raised the possibility that she may have been trying to understand something important in Daniel's professional world. As the case developed, attention shifted toward Daniel's recent legal work. Certain cases he had handled began to receive closer inspection. While nothing directly linked him to the crime at that stage, inconsistencies in timing and connections between individuals created suspicion among investigators. At the same time, Elena's past life in the Philippines was reviewed. Authorities discovered that she had experienced difficult circumstances before moving to the United States. Her resilience and attention to detail made it possible that she could have recognized risks others might miss. The investigation now had two competing directions. One suggested that Elena's relationship with Daniel placed her in danger. The other suggested that she may have uncovered something far more serious connected to his professional environment. With every new discovery, the case became more complex. Each piece of evidence created more questions than answers, and investigators realized they were only beginning to understand the full situation surrounding Elena's final days. As the investigation continued, detectives uncovered a new development that changed the direction of the entire case. A closer review of Elena Marquez's past revealed a connection that had not been considered earlier. This link involved a case that Daniel Whitmore had worked on several years before, a case that had ended with unresolved questions and lingering controversy within legal circles. This discovery raised the possibility that Elena's involvement in Daniel's life may not have been random. Investigators began to consider whether she had entered his world while already searching for something connected to his past. The idea shifted the case from a simple personal tragedy to something far more complicated. Further analysis showed that Elena had been quietly gathering information over time. Some of her digital activity suggested she had been researching events tied to individuals connected to Daniel's earlier professional work. This pattern indicated that her interest in his life may have gone beyond personal attachment. At the same time, investigators found inconsistencies in the movements of several people who had indirect connections to both Elena and Daniel. These small gaps in timelines created new suspicions, suggesting that more than two lives were involved in the situation. The case expanded beyond a single relationship and began to resemble a network of hidden connections. Each discovery pointed toward a larger structure of events that had remained unnoticed for years. As pressure increased, investigators realized that the truth might involve motives that were not immediately visible. The more they uncovered, the clearer it became that Elena's death was connected to a series of events that stretched far beyond her personal life with Daniel. As the investigation moved forward, detectives entered a critical phase where every detail of Elena Marquez's final movements was reconstructed with precision. They reviewed surveillance footage from multiple locations, tracked transportation records, and re-examined the timeline provided by phone data. Gradually, a clearer picture began to form, showing that Elena's last hours involved movements that did not fully match her usual routine. Forensic analysis of digital evidence revealed hidden interactions that had taken place shortly before she disappeared. These interactions suggested that she had been in contact with individuals outside her normal professional and personal circle. Each new finding increased the complexity of the case and raised further questions about who she had met and why. Investigators also revisited Daniel Whitmore's schedule during the same period. His public appearances and professional obligations were carefully compared against the timeline of events. While he maintained a consistent account of his activities, detectives focused on indirect connections between his known movements and the locations tied to Elena's final hours. As the pressure of the investigation grew, attention also turned toward possible external influences. Evidence suggested that Elena may have been placed in a situation where multiple factors converged at the same time, creating circumstances that were difficult to interpret without a full understanding of all involved parties. The case gained wider attention as authorities recognized its growing complexity. What had begun as a missing person investigation had transformed into a multi-layered inquiry involving professional relationships, hidden connections, and unexplained movements. By this stage, investigators understood that reaching the truth would require uncovering not just one explanation, but a chain of events that had been carefully hidden beneath the surface of everyday life. The investigation reached its most intense stage when detectives began reconstructing Elena Marquez's final day minute by minute. They combined surveillance footage, transport logs, and digital traces to rebuild her exact path after leaving the hospital. This detailed timeline revealed gaps that could not be explained through a normal routine. These missing intervals became the focus of the entire case. Digital forensics uncovered additional data from Elena's phone activity. Even though her device stopped transmitting at a certain point, earlier records showed patterns of communication that suggested she was meeting or preparing to meet someone outside her usual circle. The timing of these interactions suggested planning rather than coincidence. At the same time, investigators carefully re-evaluated Daniel Whitmore's movements. His professional schedule placed him in public view for much of the evening, but detectives examined whether indirect involvement could still exist through other individuals connected to him. They analyzed meeting logs, travel records, and third-party communications linked to his professional environment. As pressure increased, new inconsistencies emerged involving people loosely connected to both Elena and Daniel. These individuals had overlapping timelines that placed them near key locations during critical hours. While none of the evidence directly confirmed responsibility, it pointed toward coordinated circumstances rather than a random event. Authorities also explored the possibility that Elena may have been caught in a situation that escalated beyond her control. Her growing awareness of sensitive information and her proximity to powerful figures made the investigation more complex with every discovery. By the end of this phase, detectives understood that the case could not be solved through a single lead. It required uncovering a sequence of hidden actions that had converged on the night of her disappearance. In the final stage of the investigation, the case of Elena Marquez became a story that no single explanation could fully resolve. After months of searching for answers, detectives had gathered enough information to understand the structure of events leading up to her death, but the complete truth remained partly out of reach. Elena's life was reviewed in detail, showing a pattern of determination, secrecy, and quiet observation. She had built a stable life in Chicago, but her involvement with Daniel Whitmore had placed her in a situation that slowly grew more complex. Every layer of her personal history revealed how far she had come and how many risks surrounded her in the final months. Daniel Whitmore's position in the case collapsed under public attention and ongoing scrutiny. Even without a final legal resolution tied directly to him, his reputation suffered permanent damage. His career, once defined by authority and respect, became associated with unanswered questions and suspicion. Investigators ultimately concluded that Elena's death was connected to a chain of events involving multiple hidden factors rather than a single clear cause. The overlapping timelines, private relationships, and unexplained movements created a situation where responsibility could not be traced in a straightforward way. As the case closed, authorities emphasized the importance of overlooked warnings and hidden connections. Small details that once seemed unimportant had built into a larger pattern that no one fully recognized in time. Elena's story remained a reminder of how private choices can intersect with public lives in unexpected ways. The truth behind her final moments stayed partially buried in uncertainty, leaving behind a case that continued to raise questions even after the official investigation ended.